This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 1393. 4 phrases that show why being entitled makes you poor, part 2, by Nick True of mapped-out-money.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. This is the show where I narrate posts from a wide variety of personal finance blogs. We cover so much on this show, from saving to investing to debt reduction and so much more. So thank you for joining me today and every day. Happy New Year. If you're listening in real time, I hope you have a relaxing day planned today, and you're certainly starting the year off right by tuning into Optimal Finance Daily. Today's post is actually a continuation from yesterday. So if you're new here, it'd be best to listen to yesterday's episode first, way back in the year 2020. That's episode 1392. But if you're all caught up, let's finish up this post and continue optimizing your life. 4 phrases that show you why being entitled makes you poor, part 2, by Nick True of mapped-out-money.com. Number 3, I'm blank years old, I deserve something nice. If younger people have a problem trying to live like their parents, older people have a problem with thinking they deserve something just because of their age. I'm not saying that older people don't deserve respect or that younger people shouldn't listen to them for wisdom or guidance. What I'm saying is that people need to get rid of the lie they tell themselves when they believe they should have something nice because of their age. Here are just 2 phrases I've heard recently. I know I can't really afford it, but at 58, I think I finally deserve a new car. Yeah, it's expensive, but at my age, I think I deserve just a little something. Again, this just isn't true. You shouldn't buy stuff you can't afford, and you shouldn't buy stuff without a good reason. This type of thinking leads people to make stupid financial decisions that can cost them for the rest of their lives. It's just a lie that we tell ourselves. It's a way to make up a false achievement so that we can treat ourselves to a false reward. And I'm not saying you shouldn't ever treat yourself, but I'm saying when you do, it should be for a real reason, not just because of your age. Number 4, I've worked hard, I should get this. This one is tough because there is some truth to it. If you work hard, you should get a fair wage. I wholeheartedly believe that. But the difficult part comes in 2 ways. Number 1, everyone's definition of hard work and fair wage is different. Number 2, oftentimes hard work doesn't pay off immediately. The first one makes sense, right? You may think that you're working really hard or that you're worth a certain amount, and to you, it feels like you couldn't possibly work harder. But to someone else, like your boss, it may look like you're really not working all that hard. If you feel like you're working your tail off and not seeing any reward, you probably need to first really examine yourself to see if you're actually working all that hard. Then get some people you know and trust and ask them what they think of your work ethic. If you still feel like that's not the problem, it's probably time to ask your boss or whatever you're working hard towards about what they think constitutes good work. Unfortunately, everyone's definition of hard work is different. But a good place to start would be to look at someone who has what you want. Find someone who has already achieved what you're working towards. Then try and compare how hard you're working to how hard they work. If you're woefully behind, it's probably time to kick it into gear. Of course, the other problem with hard work is that it often takes a while. People get frustrated because they think they deserve the fruits of their labor shortly after the work. But many times that's just not the case. Most successful people worked hard for years before they saw the true rewards. If you're working hard, but just feel like you're not reaping any reward, you might just need to hang in there and stick it out a little longer. Your reward might be just around the corner. Don't blame anyone but yourself. If you take anything from this article, understand that you're not entitled to success or wealth. And if you don't achieve what you want, it's no one's fault but your own. Every generation is a product of the generation before them, but that doesn't give you an excuse. You can't blame them for not achieving what you want. By thinking you deserve something or that it's someone else's fault, you're just limiting your own possibilities. You've got to realize that you're the only one who can do something about your situation. No one is going to give something to you or make it better. And if you think they will, you'll never work. And if you never work, you'll never achieve. You will stay poor, poor in money, poor in health, and poor in relationships. Whatever area you feel entitled to, you'll stay poor. You've got to go out there and work for it. You have the same 24 hours in a day that everyone else on the planet has. And lots of people break world records, create million-dollar companies, travel the world, spend time with their family, and lose weight. You've got the exact same amount of time they do. So don't blame anyone else for not getting what you want. If you want something, chase it and work hard for it, but don't think you're entitled to success. You've just listened to part 2 of the post titled 4 Phrases That Show Why Being Entitled Makes You Poor by Nick True of mappedoutmoney.com. I am having such a hard time with this article, guys. It's tough for me because I agree with so much of it, but I also feel like there are some sweeping generalizations that make me a bit uncomfortable. There are people who work so very hard and still can't get ahead for reasons that are far beyond their control. At one point, the World Bank reported that half the world's population was living on less than $2.50 per day. I have trouble with the idea that all of those people are entitled and not working hard enough. However, I think there are also many people who think they are far more disadvantaged than they actually are. So for example, there was a time I was living paycheck to paycheck and I thought if only my employer would pay me more, I'd be able to make ends meet. But the reality was I was living paycheck to paycheck because I was wasting money on dumb shit. I was being irresponsible and that was definitely a choice. There was no one else to blame for my situation but me. And I think articles like this are directed at people like I used to be, who can do better but choose not to. But then I also think of my friend Lynn Frere, who had a brain tumor in her late 20s that wiped out her life savings. And mind you, she started investing when she was 12. I don't think she could be blamed for those circumstances, but it was her responsibility to figure it out. I'm happy to say that she still reached financial independence by 40 years old, despite those difficult circumstances. And you can hear more of her incredible story by watching her speech from the Economy Conference on YouTube. That all being said, if you're listening to this, have access to food, shelter, and the internet, it's likely you're pretty privileged. Join the club, I am too. Increasing my financial literacy showed me how much I was wasting my privilege, and I am so much better for it. So yes, drop the entitlement, recognize how fortunate you already are, and giddy up on cleaning up those finances. How's that for an attempt at tough love? And that's a wrap for another show. Again, wishing you a happy new year, and I'll be back tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.